Hi, Orange Girl here with another scrapbooking process video for you. I'm using this printable that comes with the May Scrapbook Circle kit. And this is my fourth layout using the kit. And so I'm working with a lot of scraps here. But this is the first layout that I actually did a process video for. Um, I chose that particular part of the printable partly because of the color, but also because of what it says. It says, "I love you because." And this is a layout of my daughter who's being quite silly. She is giving Knuckles or Knucks to a statue of Knuckles. So what I did is I pulled a whole bunch of items from the main kit called Take Note and a few items from the add-on kit called This Is Magic. And I try to pull things that are all about the same color or within that same color scheme because I'm going for kind of a monochromatic look, black and white, and then this kind of teal color or various shades of it. The only other thing really that doesn't come from the main kit or that add-on are the stars there that you see there on the left. Those were available in last month's kit called Our Story. It was in the April kit 2017. So I'm working with a bunch of scraps. Like I said, I still have a lot of the main papers left, and I still have several layouts that I will end up making, but right here, this paper I have used on at least one other layout. And what I'm doing here is, this is the same paper that you see at the bottom. I believe it's Dear Lizzie. And I am cutting the word Knucks out of that paper, and I'm just doing it freehand. I didn't draw it, I didn't anything. I just cut the paper into each of the letters. And I do this quite often because I really like the imperfect look that I get from doing this. And so that was like one of the ideas, one of the thoughts that I came up with for the title. It's actually the one that ends up sticking, but I will just kind of give you an idea of what my thought process was here. At the beginning, I was just going to talk about how me and my family were just downtown in our small town, and we happened to find this area. We were going to go out to eat, and we were looking for a new restaurant, and as we were looking for it, we found this area that has a bunch of sculptures, and we had never seen it before. That is another piece of that printable. That's the one, that part of the printable has no text on it. So I cut the same color there, and I'm going to use that like pattern paper behind my photo. Anyway, so as I start, I think I'm going to tell the story about how we find these sculptures. And we were just out and about. So I thought I would use go, see, do, those acrylic letter or words that come in the kit. I love them and I cannot wait to use them. But I don't end up using them on this layout. I'm sure I will get another couple layouts out of the kit, but for now, I'm not going to use them for this one because I end up kind of changing my story. I made those letters for Knucks, and I am going to really talk about why I love her, because really that's what the card says. I love you because, and I use that kind of as a starting point for my journaling when I get to that point. Right now you're seeing me just kind of flip things around because at this point I knew I wanted to stick with kind of a monochromatic look, but that's all I knew. I didn't really know how I wanted the design to go. I love that die cut from Pink Fresh Studio that says life unscripted, because this really was a very unscripted moment. And one of the things I love about my daughter is how spontaneously funny she is. And so that's kind of what I end up talking about, and so that die cut fit perfectly. So I'm messing around with some thread there, and I end up leaving it and coming back to it later because it wasn't cooperating. And at this point I've decided I think I'm going to keep Knucks. One of the reasons that I thought of not doing it was because I really felt like it was blending into the background too much. And so I end up solving that problem in a minute. But so as I'm deciding the title is going to actually say, "Gimme some Knucks," And then I'm going to add those tabbies there that are from Illustrated Faith. Both the Pink Fresh die cuts and the Illustrated Faith tabbies come in the add-on kit called This Is Magic, if I haven't said that yet. Anyway, I'm going to commit to Knucks. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, and you can see there on the bottom right, there is some embroidery floss that kind of fits the same color family. And I did put it up there in front of you for a second, but I did speed up the camera here, so I'm not sure you saw it. But I'm going to use that and poke holes in the background paper right up next to the letters Knucks, and I'm going to stitch all the way around the outside. And that's what I'm preparing here to do. I decided, here I go, I'm using a paper piercer and I'm just going around each of the letters. I'm not going to do all of this stitching in front of you. I promise that it's super boring. That's part of why. The other reason is because I honestly would rather just do it sitting in front of the TV. So at some point here, I'll start the stitching and turn off the camera, and then when it's finished I come back, and I might even come back on another day. I can't remember. Actually, I did this layout over 2 or 3 days because, let's face it, it's May and I'm a teacher, and so I have time here and there and not all around. So I don't always get long periods of time to do this fun part of my life. So I take what I can get, and so I take a few minutes here and a few minutes there, and that is how this layout came to be. So when I do this, I typically just knot my thread. That's what you saw there. I just put a knot in my embroidery floss and start stitching. It's a simple back stitch, I think is what it's called. I'm not a seamstress. I have no idea if I'm using the right terminology, so please forgive me if I'm not. And I just go all the way around each of the letters. So in a second here, I'm going to come back with it all done. Magic! Yay! And there it is. Now, I do apologize. I think it's the next day and the sun is out, which is wonderful. However, it does cause for a little bit of problems with the camera and seeing perfectly, but it's not too bad. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding some tissue paper behind my photograph. I'm just using the photo as a guide for cutting, and I cut some of it and I rip some of it. I do that a lot. I rip the paper, I rip this. I just like that kind of messy look. It adds to it. And now I'm going to add my splatters. So I think what I end up doing here is I add my splatters and then I go ahead and let that dry and I come back. I don't know if it's the same day or if it's later in the day, but I do come back later after it's all dry. I dry it some with a paper towel first. That's what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put it all together. So I started with an idea that I was going to tell the story about this adventure, but then I ended up deciding that I really wanted to tell how silly she was and why I love her. So that journaling card, or that piece that came from the printable that says I love you because, becomes my kind of my beginning of my journaling. It's my inspiration piece, I guess, for my journaling. And so I end up using that as the first few words of my journaling as well. So what I'm doing here is I put it all together and I decided I don't really like, now that I've got Knucks on there and everything and the Gimmie some, I don't really like the size of it. So I cut a little bit of that off so that I can add these tabs in there. And I ended up ripping my paper, but it's behind the photograph, so you're not really going to see it. Now I'm just trying to commit, gluing everything down. I often will glue all my layers together like that, or use a stapler, tiny attacher, or whatever, so that I can move it around, make sure it's where I want it to be, etc. So now I'm adding these stars that were available in the Our Story April kit from Scrapbook Circle. At one point, I probably could have cut this part out. I don't end up using these, but these are the labels from Pink Fresh Studio Live More collection. And I'm sorry, I cannot remember if those came in the main kit or if they were in an add-on. I think they were in an add-on. Maybe the planner add-on? I'm not sure. But I don't end up using them. I do end up using that little piece right there that I just put up in the upper left corner, which is another, I printed the printable twice, and I just used that little piece as just another pop of color up in the left corner. Now I'm adding my thread, and I'm kind of trying to decide if I want to use those phrase stickers or if I want to, my thread is giving me a hard time. If I want to use those phrase stickers or if I want to do some journaling, and journaling wins, which honestly, most of the time journaling wins for me. Telling the story is super important to me, and I love the artistic part of all of this. I love being able to make new designs and use pretty paper, and there I just got glue all over my picture, so I end up having to reprint my picture. I thought I could save it, but I couldn't. Anyway, real life, folks, that's what happens. So I end up telling this story about why I love her, and that's really because of, well, why I love her isn't because of the printable, but the printable is what made me tell about why I love her. One more little mess with the title here. As it goes, my journaling says, I love you because you are always up for the adventure, the perfect pose, the made-up song lyrics, or just being you. So I'm just using my T-square to go ahead and make lines, and then I'll add my journaling, and then I'm pretty much done. I do some stitching off camera. It's just much easier to do it off camera. And then I'm pretty much done with the layout. So thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope if I'm seeing you for the first time, check out some of my other videos and subscribe if you like it. This is my first video for Scrapbook Circle, but this will not be my last. I'm certain of it. There you go. I really like this. I really have enjoyed working with the kit. This is my 4th layout from the kit, and I still have a lot of stuff left, so I'll still be making some more. There's the final product. Thanks for stopping by, and here come the close-ups. Thanks a lot.